Alright, so let's talk about some problems from Chapter 8 for this week. I'm actually in the office for a change. I think you've always seen me at home, but this is my office up at school, so well, there's me on the door. So this is 226 Building 76. If you're ever up and you're curious, well, where the heck is my office? Well, there's the catwalk, if you will, over to the new building on kind of landing 2R if you're in the elevator in 76. You come... Right, see, so I'll walk outside with you for a second. So, very bright. I don't know if you can tell or not. Yeah, down to the courtyard there, down to the dorms over there, new building. Okay, here's our building. And, of course, I'm locked out. So, that was impressive. See if I can get myself back in. Okay. Alright, but anyway, so on the first door here, on the first door here on the right. Alright, so that's pretty exciting, yes. Let's talk about some Chapter 8 homework items. And if you ever need to know where to find me in person, that's where I am. Let's do a few of the special items that I picked that I want to make sure we know for this chapter. Let's look at number 5. So I'm looking at page, let's see here, I'm looking at page 223, financial planning problems. Okay, down here, financial planning problems. Number 5, it says Margie has had a tough month. First she had dental work that cost $700. Next, she had her car transmission rebuilt, which cost $1,400. She put both of these unexpected expenses on her credit card. If she does not pay her credit card balance when due, she'll be charged 15% interest. Now, I wish that the book was a little more explicit about this, but you should probably at this point have picked up on the fact that when they just say 15% interest, they mean that annually. If they meant a period other than annually, they would explicitly state that. So when it says 15% interest, it means annually. Margie has $15,000 in a money market account that pays 5% interest. How much interest would she pay annualized if she does not pay off her credit card balance? How much interest will she lose if she writes a check out of her money market account? All right, and then it does say to do this in annualized terms, this interest calculation. So here's the deal. This is number 5. All right, there we go. This is number, this is number 5, and from Chapter 8. Okay, well, credit card interest equals, well, she has $700 plus $1,400. Is $2,100 on this card now. And if she does not pay her balance, she'll be charged 15% interest. So interest would be times 0.15. That's because this was a 15% annual. It didn't say explicitly, but again, if there's no mention, we know it's annual. Annual interest rate. So how much in annual interest would she pay in terms of dollars? That's just 2,100 times 0.15, and that's $315. So $315 in interest. Now, there's something to this question where they then ask you, oh, well, since we're talking here, what should you do in terms of well, if you have this money market account, would you be interested in perhaps dipping into the money market account to pay off these expenses instead? Now this money market account over here is paying 5% interest. Margie has $15,000 in a money market account paying 5% interest. So how much interest will she lose if she writes the check out of her money market account? Well, how much would she lose? That would be, what? Instead of having $15,000 in the account, she'd be down $2,100. That same $2,100 that's coming out of her money market account, she would have made 5% annual interest on it. Well, that's just $105. So there'd be $105 in lost interest from money market account. Effectively, this problem is set up to give you two choices. Right? You got two choices. You can either pay $315 in credit card interest, or you can lose $105 in your money market account. Either way, you're out some money. Well, which of these would you rather do? Given these terms, you'd rather lose the $105. And the way that the problem is set up, it says, should Margie write the check for this? Yeah, she should. She should write a check for $105 and just dip into her money market account and have the balance go down from, what, $15,000 to $12,900, right? That stinks. She doesn't like having her balance of her money market account go down to $12,900, but either way, she's on the hook for this interest here, and she's on the hook for less if she can pay it off right away. So that's the answer to this one. Go ahead and dip into the money market account, let the balance sink to $12,900, write the check, because then you only lose $105 in interest income. Okay, let's try number 6. Let's try this here. Number 6. Troy has a credit card that charges 18%. Now again, if it's no explicit mention of it, we know that that's annual. 18% on an outstanding balance on 18% on outstanding balances and on cash advances. The closing date on the credit card is the first of each month. Last month, Troy left a balance on his card of $200. This month, Troy took out a cash advance of $150 and made $325 in purchases. Troy made a payment of $220. What will the total of Troy's new balance be on his credit card statement, taking into account finance charges? Okay. Well, we talked about grace period a little bit when we were doing doing our slides. Well, the grace period applies to the new purchases. Okay, that $325 in new purchases. He doesn't owe any interest on that $325 yet, but Troy does owe interest on any outstanding balance that he didn't pay off last month. And cash advances, there is no grace period, so he owes interest on that right away as well. Now it says, what will the total of Troy's new balance be on his next credit card statement? Now, one thing that you might have slipped under the cracks on you here, if you didn't think about it, slipped through the cracks would be the expression, excuse me, is this 18%. That 18%, like we said a moment ago, is an annual interest rate, but look at all this stuff. All this stuff is in terms of months, right? You're charged the rate, you're charged the interest monthly, right? You get a monthly statement. These are the transactions Troy made this month. Okay, so the first thing to do when we think about this one is say, oh, well, 18% annually, if that's the rate, we call it the annual percentage rate. If we divide that by 12, we get 1.5% per month. We talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago when we were doing some time value money conversions back in chapter 3. Okay. So 1.5% is his interest rate per month. What does he owe that on? Well, go back to the problem here, and it said, oh, he had left a balance on the card of $200. So he owes interest of $200 times 0.015, that's the interest rate. Okay. And he also, that cash advance of $150, there's no grace period on that, so he owes 1.5% on that right away as well. Those are the things that he incurs finance charges on. You do the multiplication here and you get $3 and you get $225. You add those together and that's $5.25 in what we'd call fees or interest fees, excuse me, or finance charges. That's what you're trying to avoid. So basically this is the reason that you don't run a balance on a credit card or take cash advances, because then you're eligible to pay finance charges. We want you to pay the balance off every month and never take cash advances. All right, so 525 is his finance charges. The other thing in the question here is, what's his new balance going to be? It says, so what will the total of Troy's new balance be, taking into account finance charges? Well, there's the charges. All right, well, let's write it all out. The old balance was 200. All right. So he also owes for cash advances of 150. Right? And he also made new purchases of 325. And he also has finance charges from the previous month of $5.25. Add that all together, right? And you get what? 580, or excuse me, 680 and 25 cents. $680.25 minus the payments made. So minus, he paid $220. This means that on his statement, for this month, the bottom line is going to be balance of $460.25. I know there's example questions like this for you to do in your homework and in your quizzes, and it'll be on exam 2 as well. So, okay, let's go over to a part 2, and I'll do 2 more questions with you here in a moment.